Questions and comments? The honourable member for Winnipeg North.
A few words come to my mind, Mr. Speaker, and one of them is you got to be kidding. Mr. Speaker, you know, it was just a couple of weeks ago I was at a local restaurant and someone says to me, you know, your Prime Minister, and I can't say the Prime Minister's name because it would be unparliamentary inside the chamber at this point in time, but in reference to the new Canadian Prime Minister, and said that, you know, in the first 100 days that he has accomplished more to making our society a better place to live than the previous Prime Minister in his entire 10 years. I don't know where the member gets off with the comments that he has put on, Mr. Speaker. But let me ask the member. You know, we talk about an election platform because he seemed to be focused on that. Take a look at what Bill C-2 does. It fulfills a major party platform. It will, in fact, give money to Canada's middle class. That is something in which it was promised, and this bill is a promise kept from a platform issue. It said that we were going to give an increase to those that are Canada's wealthiest, that 1%. Again, it is a promise that is kept. But let's not give up hope, Mr. Speaker, because there's more that's coming on March 22 that's going to give even that much more in terms of Canada's middle class and those aspiring to be a part of the middle class, Mr. Speaker, through the Canada Child Benefit Program. We have seen the greatest redistribution of income inequality, trying to address that issue in the last 120 days plus, Mr. Speaker. Be a little bit more patient, and there's a lot more to come. Would the member not recognize at the very least that this government has done more for the Canadian middle class than the previous government did in the previous 10 years?
Honourable member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the honourable member as well for his speech. He's alluded, and other members have alluded to, surprises in the budget. Well, we frankly have had quite enough surprises from this government already, and it's great to hear the anecdote about the member going to a restaurant and finding someone there who agrees with him. But the fact is, if you look at the numbers, if you look at the facts, I talked about numbers with regards to inequality. I talked about numbers with regard to the tax changes. The Liberals have trouble with this. They have trouble with the numbers. And it's clear from their budget policy that they have trouble with the numbers. But those who benefit from their tax change are those making between $45,282 a year and $90,563 a year. Those are the only ones who get a tax cut. If you're making less than that $45,000 mark, you pay more because you lose the benefit of tax-free savings accounts. This bill benefits members of Parliament who make less than $200,000 a year but more than $90,000 a year. It benefits other people in that higher income category. It does not benefit those who need it most. These are the lines that the Liberal have, but they simply do not match up with the reality of the numbers.
Questions and comments? The honourable member for Regina Leuven.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would thank the member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan, for introducing the concept of intergenerational mobility into this debate. And I would agree that that's a very important measure of equality of opportunity. Certainly we would not aspire to have a country in which someone could become Prime Minister largely on the strength of their father having been Prime Minister. One of the major threats to intergenerational mobility are inheritances. And a concern that I would express about tax-free savings accounts is that they could actually aggravate the amount of wealth that is conferred based on heredity, because not only will people be able to accumulate wealth over the years, but the Conservatives would like them to accumulate much more wealth tax-free. And I wonder if the member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan, shares this concern about intergenerational inequity being aggravated by tax-free savings accounts. Thank you.
Member for Sherwood Park, Fort Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It certainly is always a pleasure to engage in dialogue with this member, an experienced debater and someone who has a good understanding of economics, although it has clearly led him to take a wrong turn at some point. Now, with respect to his comments about intergenerational earnings elasticity, I appreciate his affirmation of the value of that as a metric, because it really vindicates the approach that our government took. Now, with regard to the issue of tax-free savings accounts and how they operate in the context of inheritance, this is an important point, because tax-free savings accounts are disproportionately used by those who are on the lower income scale. We know this just because of the tax treatment of RRSPs versus TFSAs, that there's a real incentive for people to use them in particular who are on the lower end. The numbers are clear. I mentioned them before. over 65% of tax-free savings account holders make under $60,000 a year. Over half of those who max out their tax-free savings accounts make under $60,000 per year. So we want to see people be able to pass on an inheritance to the next generation. We see value in that, but given the disproportionate use of tax-free savings accounts by middle and low-income Canadians, that the advantageous tax treatment of them in the context of inheritance is a pro-equality measure, and that's why we support maintaining and enhancing the tax.
Resuming debate, the honourable member.